How are we going? Here. Where's my dark cloth gone? I actually have no idea where it is. Is this it? Ah, here it is. So you're probably wondering, what the hell am I doing? Essentially, tomorrow evening, or some evening soon, I'm hoping to drive up to Lough Tay and take some nice 4x5 pictures of the lake. It's a very beautiful area in Ireland, and I'm deciding to use my 4x5, which is an Intrepid 4x5 Mark IV. I actually haven't used this in like a year. It's just been sitting on the shelf. Also, because it's been so long since I've shot this, I'm actually just doing a sort of practice to make sure I remember all the steps. So close shutter, cock shutter was set to 1/8, fire. Yep, excellent. It's a test fire. Now that's test fire, that means the shutter is closed. So I should be able to open the film slide. This film holder is empty, by the way. And then I can take a shot. Seems to be working. Lens appears to be in good condition, which is good. Dark side back in, slide it out. Okay, I can still remember how to operate this damn thing properly, which is a good sign. I really don't want to get up there and accidentally, you know, muck up a frame because I forgot how to operate my 4x5. We've got some Provia here, and we have a box of brand new unopened Velvia 50. Yes, I have Velvia 50. 20 sheets of it. I think this might be my last 20 sheets ever because I believe it's gone out of production. Anyway, I think for this I'm going to load up 2 sheets of Provia in one holder, and then I'll probably just load up some Delta 100 black and white. And yeah, now we're going to go into the dark and load these. Come on, go into the bag. Can you smell Provia? It smells quite strongly. Loaded, notch code correct. Seal, slide, flip, pull, open. Keep the box closed. Okay, it should be loaded. Turn on the light. Okay, time to pack up the rest of this crap and get the tripods ready. This is still 80 kilometers an hour, by the way. Okay, looks pretty good. I think that might be my viewpoint there, though. I think here's good. Pretty much all ready to go here. Just need to wait for the road to clear and load up some film. So just getting set up here, getting metered. Before I take my meter reading, I'm gonna need the graduate filters though for this. That sky is too bright for slide. Getting cold up here as well, actually. Hopefully I remember how this goes together. So I already pulled focus and everything, I just need to... Okay, let's get the meter back out because the lights just went, damn it. Well, I'm glad I caught that on camera. The clips on this are really bad. 9, 11, sky's 14. Bring it down by 2, 12. Hills are 12, 10. And deepest area is 9, 9's -1. Okay, good. So it looks like we're going to be going at 1 second at f32. Cock. Fire, test fire is good. So you're probably wondering what happened to my lovely 4x5 shot. It was actually two things. First of all, it turns out my E6 chemicals were a little bit cooked, so the shot didn't develop exactly right. And the second issue is that my current scanning setup for 4x5 with the enlarger lens is actually really quite bad. I'm having a lot of trouble getting focus because the bellows is too long and there's all kinds of issues. Getting ready to head home to the porch. Got a cat and a squeak that I can play. If you know where that's from, you are goddamn as old as I am. Jesus! Don't slow down, lad. Is that a deer? It is! Holy fuck, a deer coming out of the woods. Holy fuck, I got that on video. Come on. Pulled in there at the petrol station and had about 50 quid worth of petrol in the car. Anybody who calls a liquid a gas deserves to have their head checked. And now we're just sailing home on the motorway. Nice and happy. So just arrived back up at Lough Tay. It's where I photographed from recently. Actually like 3 days ago. Apparently there's going to be massive aurora tonight. There's a huge coronal mass ejection from the sun earlier today. Really nice clear sky. It's a dark sky area up here pretty much, so it's going to be quite nice. Got all the gear in the paddy wagon. Of course got the Z8 and a few other bits. Right, let's go get set up down there. It's going to be cold as fuck. Good thing I brought a ski jacket and some gloves. That little viewpoint there is where I was last time. I'm not walking down there because it's quite steep and I don't trust it at this time of night, so it is very cold up here. So we're just doing a few test exposures here in the Z8, going to figure out my settings and then going to do the same ones on the F6 on Ektachrome. It's very dark up here. Oh, some stars are starting to peep out. The light has pretty much gone now. Stars are coming out, it looks very good. A couple of planes flying around because Dublin Airport is over there and it's busy. But just doing some long exposures on the F6 with the remote. It's like 2.5 minutes of exposure time on Ektachrome. I'm going to give it an extra 15-20 seconds though, because I'm going to give it a little extra time because it's Ektachrome, I can use it, and there's also the fact that, where's my thoughts going with this? Oh yeah, the light has fallen a bit since I've taken that reading, so, or a good bit, so it's probably more like 3 minutes it needs, or even 4. There we go. So this shot was fairly badly cooked in the soup, and I also underexposed it really badly. Even though the Z8 was set to the same ISO as Ektachrome and using the same settings and accounting for reciprocity, it still didn't work out. Okay, so we're in a different location here. Getting set back up. 5.6, it's 2 stops under 30 seconds, so 100, 200. I think you can actually see the beginnings of the Milky Way going overhead. Maybe I'm completely high though. A couple of other stargazers around, but they're all in their own little places. You can see a bunch of lads down there with a camper and some cameras. Big Dipper. There's the North Star. The north is that way. Kita, Kaminari, Nishi. I think Nishi's west. Can't remember what east is. Sashi maybe? Oh, let this exposure finish. See how it turns out, see if it needs a bit more light, and then I'll see if I can do an Ektachrome. Then we'll try the full spectrum, see what we get. Okay, let's try F6. And better expose away for 11 minutes. So my film picture of the aurora didn't exactly turn out very well. even with an 11-minute exposure. But honestly, I think the issue here was that there's just simply not enough light. And I have noticed that over the years, even with extreme long exposures on film, if there is no light at all, it just can't capture anything. While digital sensors can kind of scoop up much smaller amounts of light due to the higher sensitivity, the film just can't get enough brightness to trigger any reactions at all, and you end up with muddy images like this. So that's what I think happened here. Okay, tighten that down. Where's my clamp? I want to set up the full spectrum to do some shots in parallel. Okay, so let's see how the full spectrum deals with this. Yeah, it's like an 11-minute exposure. It's freezing out here. That's it then. So, good night. Ugh, good thing I wore my boots. Okay, where are we going? Car park. Let's see. Here are the images from the trips, and none of them are very good. But let's have a look through them anyway. So the first set of images are from the road shot, and that includes the infrared, the Z8 color image, and of course the black and white 4x5 image. And I have to say, I actually quite like these images. The infrared image came out a little hot. I think I need to start setting the camera to underexpose a little bit when I'm shooting infrared, because it is coming out very contrasty and quite hot. The color image is actually quite nice. We've got some half decent color contrast. Got the road running through, which was my leading line in the composition. Got a nice bit of sky, and then we have the valley here is in a bit of shadow, but we've got some light kind of bringing it across to highlight the curves of the hill. As for the 4x5 image, I actually really like how this one turned out. The longer lens actually helped quite a lot here, because that kind of extends the leading line through, and you can see the hill here is larger in frame and it shows where the road is going, rather than it being this little tiny patch of strip here. We also still have the nice lighting with the brighter areas here and up here, while the road is in shadow, but not in too much shadow. I actually made sure to add about half a stop of exposure to try and keep the shadows from crumbling to dust. Now the sky did get a little bit blown out. I think I can probably pull that down a little bit more and increase the contrast up here. But we do see some haze in the background, and that's surprising to me because there wasn't actually much haze up there, but there's definitely some haze here, so maybe I'll have to increase the contrast here as well. But overall, I actually think this shot turned out quite nicely. And of course, the final shot here is the infrared shot. You can see where the sky is quite a bit darker from the infrared handling. Now this isn't actually a proper infrared shot, it's actually shot at 550nm filter, so the foliage effect is still quite strong, but you don't get the absolute black sky you would on a true infrared shot at 720nm. But it still looks pretty good. However, I think the white foliage effect is really overpowering a lot of the scene, and I'd have to raise the shadows up quite a bit, so I don't think the infrared effect is really helping this image over the delta image. So the next few images are from my second vantage point where I climbed down a little hill, and here we have what came out of that viewpoint. I'm just going to say it straight up, the Provia shot turned out absolute ass. I think my E6 chemicals were cooked, but that Provia shot just did not work. The Delta shot is okay, but the lens on the 4x5 was way too tight for that position. The lake gets cut off and you just don't get any of the landscape. I had to shift the lens down to try and capture the front of the lake. This composition just doesn't work. So the Z8 shot, on the other hand, actually turned out kind of decent, but it's boring. There's no interesting lighting at all. The only really interesting thing is the view itself. I definitely made sure to capture the lake and the river coming into it and then the river draining out. But overall, not really anything special. It almost looks like a snapshot. The sun was over here on the right hand side, shining over the hill, and it actually gone down too far by the time I got to this position. So overall, not very good. So the next two images are from the night shooting session. So this is from the Z8 from the second vantage point. This one was a long exposure. I think it was about 2 minutes. it turned out actually reasonably okay. The reflection of the moon here actually looks quite good, and we've got a little bit of glow from the sun still just peeking over the hill to help highlight the edge quite nicely in the darkness. Nice blue hour sky, and then we do have these streaking stars as well from the long exposure, but overall I actually think this is okay. Now in the print, this area here is actually quite dark. I would have to bring up the shadows quite a bit to compensate for that. On the other hand, however, the Ektachrome shot was a complete bust. I underexposed it. It's completely cooked. You can see the difference. This needed at least another 2 stops, maybe even 3 stops of exposure. I think this is a 4-minute exposure. It probably should have been closer to 11 or 10 or 12 minutes. Like, this is just terrible. So we're not going to talk about that one. And the final batch of images are for the Aurora Borealis shining over the lake. And first off, we have our absolutely cooked Ektachrome image. This just didn't have enough exposure, or maybe there just wasn't enough light to trigger reactions in the emulsion. There's something in the sky here, and the headlights of the cars going along the hill here on the road are actually kind of bright. But other than that, this is just terrible. Like, that's a failed image. The next image is the full spectrum Z6 image, which is actually kind of interesting. Apart from the fact that I completely and utterly misfocus, that is actually from a piece of dust I left underneath the sensor glass I installed, so it can never go away. Apart from the fact the image is completely out of focus, the full spectrum actually captured quite a nice image with the H alpha pass filter, and it does seem to have captured quite a lot more red, which is interesting because if we take the Z8 normal shot, we can see that it was actually mostly green at this point. So the aurora here, you can see the different color of the aurora. It's reflected in the lake. It looks really quite nice here. We've got a little bit of light here from some cars going up to the Sally Gap. Overall, this image actually turned out okay. But if we compare the 2 different versions of the image, one with the H alpha line and one without, we can clearly see some hydrogen alpha emission coming through in this section of the aurora where the green is, that our eyes can't see and the normal camera can't see either. So that's actually kind of mildly interesting that you get a different patch of aurora color based on what emission spectrum you can see. So that's all the images I took. I think by far the best ones are the Z8 Aurora, the evening shot at dusk with the Z8, and then obviously the 4x5 and the Z8 shots of the road. So overall, these are the 4 images that definitely turned out the best: the Z8 Aurora, the Z8 at dusk, and the 2 shots of the road, one on Delta 100 and a 4x5, and a Z8 shot of the road as well. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed my little adventures up at Lough Tay, and I'll see you next time. Stuck on this steep bit of road now. Fucking car. You can really tell I'm not used to a manual car, can't you? Oh man, that was a hard fucking hill to get up. I have the power for it, there's an automatic handbrake in this, and so you can't control the handbrake. So you have to like let the engine do it, the car do it, but then it fucking grabs too quickly and it doesn't go properly, and it's really frustrating. You have to rev the bollocks out of the car to get it to hold, and then you're slipping the clutch and you're burning the clutch out of the car trying to wait for the handbrake to come off because you can hear go. It's incredibly stupid. Anyway, we're at the viewpoint.